Hello and welcome to the NDTV World Economic Forum TV debate, coming to you from the World Economic Forum's annual meeting right here at Davos. It's a great pleasure to have the entire audience here with us. The subject under discussion today is inclusive growth and how India can achieve it. Frankly, the entire discussion and the debate between growth and equality is something that's age-old. It's been there for 50 to 60 years. For the first 43 years or so of India's history, India focused a lot on equality and not quite so much on growth. And as a result of that, growth levels were also quite down. And then came liberalization and a period where development and growth in particular was what was focused upon. And at that time, pro-poor policies were sometimes dismissed as being populist policies. Now India is trying to find the correct balance, that it should continue to grow and continue to grow at the rates that it is, but at the same time no one should be left out, and that the divide between the rich and the poor should be bridged. How can this be best achieved, and what are the consequences if India fails to do that? We have an absolutely fantastic panel to take us through all of this. I'm going to start by welcoming Mr. Chidambaram, who's the Minister of Home Affairs of India. He was the finance minister as well before the terrible Mumbai attack, so he's perhaps the best person in the whole of the country to have a comprehensive perspective on this. It also gives me great pleasure to welcome Zhu Min onto the panel. He's Special Advisor at the International Monetary Fund, but perhaps can also bring us some examples from what's been happening in China in this regard. China has had some fantastic success in lifting millions out of poverty. Chanda Kochar, it's great to have you with us, Chief Executive Officer of ICICI Bank, one of India's largest private sector banks, and the experiences that you're having there. Michael Elliott, Editor of Time International, great to have you with us as well, and Salil Shetty, Secretary General, Amnesty International. Thank you all so much for being with us. Mr. Chidambaram, why can't if I could just start off by getting you to dive into this. India's had phases in how it approaches this entire question of growth and equality. Where do you think that debate stands today? And the government says it's following a Aam Aadmi or a common man strategy. Is that succeeding, or are there still hundreds of millions of people being left out of India's economic boom?
Government's policy is clear. This government's election manifesto was clear, and I think a number of programs that we have launched are intended to advance the goal of inclusive growth. But the fact is that these programs do not reach all of India. There are perhaps over 100 million people who are beyond the pale of these programs. So the answer to your question is yes. While the intention is inclusive growth, it's perhaps right to say that a number of people are still left out.
Mr. Zhu Min, how would you approach that question?
Well, India had a fantastic growth last year, right? And 8.7% GDP growth with very strong domestic consumption growth, and also the fixed capital investments growth is also very strong, 12–13%. But looking forward, I would say, how do you manage inflation expectation? It's a key issue both for growth and equality issues. Because India, after 2 years very strong growth, very much moved to the sort of a little bit of overheating phase. The output gap is very much closed. And inflation is pressures here already, right? I mean, the fourth quarter inflation is 8.9%. We expect WPR, I understand India do have a different index, CPI, WPR, manufacturing, but which is pretty high, right? And obviously, currently it's still driven by food price and also a little bit of commodity price. But if the price inflation, the pressure getting up, I think they will deter the growth, but also who will be hurt? The poor people.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. How do you manage the inflation pressure today for India's macroeconomy? It's the most important thing, both for growth and for equality.
Mr. Chidambaram, do you agree with that? That in the immediate future, it's the same problem that will affect both. It will affect growth and it will affect poverty and getting people out of poverty. High food prices, high commodity prices in general.
It will affect growth marginally, but what is worrying me more is that people who've been lifted out of poverty,